exploring into an ATM. So stand on your hands, stand on your knees. Notice the distance between your right armpit and your right hip. Make that distance shorter. Make the distance between your right armpit and your right hip shorter, keeping your hands and keeping your knees in place. Don't shift your hands, don't shift your knees. Just make that right side shorter. Several times. Now, do the same on the other side. Make that distance shorter from the left armpit to the left hip. And the nature of your structure is such that if one side shortens, the other side has to lengthen. Now, shorten the right side, lengthen the left, and then shorten the left side, lengthen the right. And notice how your head sways left and right. And if you had a tail, your tail would be wagging left and right. So as you shorten your left side, your tail and your head wag to the left. And as you shorten the right side, your head and your tail wag to the right. No drooling. Good, that's enough. Please stop, rest. Lie on your back. Interlace your fingers, put your hands behind your head. Bend your legs, stand your feet on the floor. Now, ever so slightly, lift your hands and your head from the floor with your elbows directed towards the ceiling. And just suspend yourself off the floor a little bit, hands and head. Just enough not to have friction. And now do what you just did when you were on your hands and your knees. Shorten the right side. Shorten the left side. That's it. Notice that when your head and your tail go to the left, your rib cage goes to the right. That the rib cage, or at least some of the rib cage, goes in the opposite direction to which you're wagging your tail and moving your head. Okay, let that be. Pause again. Come up onto your hands and your knees. Stand on your hands, stand on your knees. Bring your attention to your abdomen, the fullness of your abdomen, not just the belly button, but below the belly button, above the belly button, above the navel, below the navel. And now, lift your abdomen further from the ground. Lift it further from the ground. Notice the kind of shape that you start to make in your back. And now let the abdomen go all the way towards the floor. Keep your elbows straight, don't bend the elbows. And then lift your abdomen from the ground. Lift it and let it go towards the ground. Lift it, let it go towards the ground. And you're free to move your head in space and the base of your neck in space. Some of you may be able to let your abdomen sink towards the ground so much that your face starts to become oriented to the front of the room. That's enough. Stop. Pause for a little bit. One more variation. Please, prop yourself up onto your elbows and your forearms with the back of your pelvis resting on the floor. Have your legs long or have your legs bent with the soles of the feet together? Your choice. It's okay. Either way is okay. Now, instead of thinking of your abdomen, take your attention around to the back of yourself, to where your waistline is, where your lower ribs are. And start to take the waistline and the lower ribs further away from the floor. Lift them more from the floor. More, and then let them go towards the floor, the lower rib cage and the waistline. And as you do that, pay attention to the front of yourself. As you lift your lower ribs away from the floor, notice how the top of your breastbone moves far, far away from your pubic bone, and vice versa. Just notice that. As you lift the rib cage, the lower ribs from the floor, how you get longer through the front of yourself. And now switch your attention to the back. And notice as you bring your rib cage towards the floor, how you get longer along the back of yourself, from the base of your neck to your tailbone. You just get longer and longer and longer. If someone was to put a tape measure there, you would see that you'd increase the length anything up to 8 centimeters, because you're increasing the curvature. So as you raise the lower ribs from the floor, you get longer through the front. As you lower the lower ribs towards the floor, you get longer through the back. Keep thinking length. Keep thinking space. Keep thinking spaciousness. Lots of room in there. Great. Let that be. Pause. Come up onto your hands and your knees. Now, bring your attention all the way down to the tip of your tailbone. And now, move yourself, move your pelvis, move your spine, move your chest, move your neck, move your head in such a way that the tailbone can point towards the ground and then point towards the ceiling. Towards the ground, towards the ceiling. Ground, ceiling. That's it. And then stop, and then wag your tailbone left and wag your tailbone right. And now take your tailbone in a circle, around and around in a circle, taking with you all the experiences that you've just had with your partner, with their hands touching you in this little short lesson that you've done so far. Take your tailbone around in a circle. Don't forget your head at the other end. Great. Now stop. Have your head organized so that it's in the same line as your trunk, that your chin is not towards your chest or away from your chest, but it's like as if you were standing. Now, imagine right out of the top of your head, right out of the very top, is shining a very bright blue laser light. Draw a circle on the wall in front of you using the laser light coming out of the top of your head. Stay over your legs. So you're a high technology dog, right? You've got a tail at one end and a laser light at the other. Sorry. Mixed images. That's nice. And if you want to track what's happening in the middle of you, do so. Something happens in the middle of you. That rib cage starts to go around and around in a circle too. Good. Okay. Let that be. Please come up to standing. We'll go into a little short break and we'll finish with a short lesson before lunch. While you're standing, please take hold of a little piece of hair right at the very, very crown of your head, right at the very crown. Not at the front, not at the back, not to the left, not to the right, right at the very, very top of your head, the part of your head that's closest to the ceiling. Just take a little hold of the hair. Now, just give that hair a little bit of a pull, just enough so that you know that you're pulling on the hair and not so much that you're going to pull the hair out by the roots. Just a little bit of tension. Now, using that hand, start to pull that hair around in a circle, a little bit forwards, a little bit around to the right, a little bit backwards, and a little bit around to the left, and then a little bit around to the front and around like that. So the hand is leading, the hair is following, and your scalp is listening. Yeah, hand is leading, hair is following, scalp is listening, and then notice, where do you take your head based on what your scalp is telling you? And for some of you, you'll start to feel that the movement begins to travel into the neck. And you can do this very subtle little motion in your neck while keeping the rest of yourself quite quiet and well balanced. That this tiny little circle that you're suggesting doesn't have to disrupt your balance at all. If you want, you can switch hands. let that be. Just stands very simply. And I just had a second thought. Would you mind going for an early lunch today? Is that okay? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that sounded good. All right. So we'll go for an early lunch and we'll come back at 1:30, 1:45.